Eki was just natter quert efenunin. Whispering pines. Sleepy town cradled. Between pine forests and winding rivers. The kind of place where everyone knew your name, but no one really knew you. Secrets. Their smelt of waters. And the golden sunlight filtered through. Tall branches, dappling the ground in a patchwork of warm light and creeping shadows. And then there was the sandal. A sing-groping sandal, no bigger than a child sand, bobbing in the rivers. Slackered like a forgotten toy. A tea. Twisted and turned with the water, a plastic flower on the strap catching the light as a teaspoon over and over. A tea. Should have been a small thing, an ordinary thing. But somehow a tea wasn't. A tea was the kind of thing that made your stomach sink even before your brain caught up. The river ran slow that day. Almost lazy. But beneath the surface, Riti hit a dark and steady pool. Just downstream, where the old wooden bridge creaked under the weight of years, an old German shepherd named Ranger lifted Nichnia's hit. Ranger wasn't just any dog. He was a retired K-9 once part of the County Sheriff's Unit, a legend in which they for sniffing out what others missed. Drugs, missing kids, and sometimes the kind of evil that wore a friendly face. But now, Ranger was old. Nichnia's fair great. Round the muzzle, Nichnia's eyes cloudy and Nichnia's hips stiff from too many chases and not enough thanks. He should have been sleeping, maybe dreaming of the good old days. But that afternoon, something stirred in him, a scent on the wind, sharp as roasted nails and just as cold. Nichnia's ear sparkled, trembling slightly, and then the scream. A tea wasn't loud, more like a stifled yelp, barely a whisper above the rustling leaves. But Ranger heard a tea, and he moved. In the woods, a girl no older than 8 lay cramped on the riverbank. Her name was Emma Carter, and she had dark hair tangled with twigs, a blue shirt sacked through with mud, and a scrape on her hair that oozed a thin line of blood. Her shoes were missing. Her face was pale. Her breath barely a flicker. Nobody saw the man in the black boots. Nobody saw the way he shoved her. The way she hit her head on the smooth massy stone, or how she slipped beneath the water like a discarded doll. Nobody except Ranger. He barreled through the underbrush, old muscles stretching in a way they hadn't in years. Each paws slammed against the soft earth. Each stride furrowed by something deeper than instinct. By the memory of laws, by the echo of a past he sold. The river wasn't just water that day. It was a thief. A silent thick of things too small to hide back. Emma fled the face down, her hair fanning out like dark seaweed. Ranger plunged in the cold, cutting deep, but he didn't hesitate. He beat down on her shirt and tugged it hard. The current fought him, tugging her. Roy, but he growled into the water. La furious sound like a warning to death itself. And then slowly she emerged, limp, fragile, heavy with the weight of water and secrets. At that exact moment, Emma's Helen Adams, the town's unofficial grandma, was cooking up green beans in her kitchen. Her window overlooked the river, and she'd like to say she'd seen more truth out That when the 10 most people read in the papers. When she heard rangers bark, sound she hadn't heard in years, her hands froze and the knife clattered to the floor. It wasn't just a bark, it was the bark, the same one it made the night he found a missing boy in the woods years ago. She ran. No cane, no shoes, just raw fear and a prayer on her lips. Down by the river, ranger nagedeimas. Body with itches nas huining la, itches tail. A stiff flag behind him. Helen dropped to her knees, pressing trembling fingers to the girl's neck. There, faint, but there, a pulse. Aloud, she whispered, tears blurring her vision. The paramedics arrived 15 minutes later. Rat. Lights swirling through the trees. Sirens howling across the quiet town. A young paramedic named Jason frowned us. He looked at the macaque dog beside the gurney. Who's this, it? Elaine's voice was steady, her old eyes sharp. Is not just a dog. Is a witness. Ranger stood silent, each ears wet fair speaked. And heavy, each ear's eyes locked on Emma like. It'd been waiting for her all each year's life. As they lifted Emma into the ambulance, the air seemed to hold its breath. Halfway to the hospital, Ranger tried to jump in the bag, but Jason blocked him. No dogs, he said firmly. Elaine's voice caught in, fierce as a blade. Let him in. That dog's part of the story whether you like it or not. Jason hesitated. And in that moment, I want to remind you if you're touched by stories of loyal dogs like Ranger. And if you believe in the silent heroes who hide for those without a voice, don't forget to subscribe to our channel, Heroes for Animals, for more stories that will move your heart and open your eyes. Back in the hospital, dear Mickey Langley, a man had seen each year's share of tragedies, peeled back the girl's shirt to check her injuries. What he saw made him freeze. Bruises not just from the river. Old ones fading but still there. Like fingerprints from a past that refused to stay hidden. This isn't just a hole, he muttered under each year's breath. Nurse Amanda Parker bit her lip, exchanging a glance with the doctor, her eyes wide and worried. In the waiting room, Ranger lay down in front of the door, each year's body a wall of silent protestation. People passed by casting glances at the dirty, aging dog, but nobody dared tell him to move. Outside the hospital, a man in a white shirt and polished boots, Elijah Carter, lit a cigarette with hands that didn't quite stop shaking. Each year's ace flicked toward the hospital windows cold as winter rain. She's always been a clumsy kid, he muttered to no one in particular, each year's voice smooth, too smooth. Ranger's ears twitched, each's nose lifted to the wind, and somewhere deep in the dark, the scent of fear drifted. Like smoke. The river hid thicker than a child. Or maybe it was something much worse. Ranger didn't know everything, but he knew enough, and he wasn't going anywhere. The hospital waiting room smelled like disinfectant and stale coffee, a place where time seemed to stretch and contract with every beep of a monitor down the hall. Ranger lay on the cold tile floor, paws outstretched. He'd between them, eyes half closed, but always watching. Each's ears twitched every time the door creaked open, but each's gaze Never drifted her from the who were. Emma Carter was fighting for her life. Sylvia Reynolds, the town social worker, stepped into the hospital with a notebook tucked under her arm, her hair pulled back in a tight bun that hit started to fray from the long day. She paused when she saw Ranger sprawled by the entrance, moody, tired, but alert. For a second, she just looked at him. Like the pieces of a puzzle were waiting to click into place. "You're the one. Here talking about, she whispered, bending down to scratch gently behind each ears. Ranger didn't move, but a faint thump of each tail brushed against the floor. Elijah Carter was in the corner of the wing room, seated in a plastic chair, each posture to relax, like he was trying too hard to look concerned. He sipped slowly from a styrofoam cup of coffee. Niches but stepping a RHYTHM on the floor. That didn't match the urgency of the situation. Niches flicked up as Sylvia approached. "I'm Carter," she began, flipping open her notebook. "Can I ask you a few questions about what happened today?" He gave her a smile that didn't quite reach each eyes. A practiced, measured smile, the kind that worked on teachers and store clerks, maybe even their occasional sheriff's deputy. "Of course. Happy to help." Sylvia clicked her pen, her fingers steady. "You said Emma fell into the river while you were out walking." "That's right," Elijah said smoothly. "She's always been a curious one. Likes to wander off. Slipped on the rocks, I guess. Next thing I know, she's in the water." Rears ears perked up, each eyes heaved, locked onto Elijah with a quiet intensity, and each lip curled just slightly, a twitch that lasted less than a heartbeat. Sylvia noticed. "Funny thing," she said, her voice soft but firm. "You must eat. The rocks are slick down there. I've walked that trail myself, and I know it can be dangerous. But you didn't mention being down by the river earlier when the sheriff first spoke to you." Eliach's smile twitched. "Guess I didn't think it mattered. Just trying to get your help, you know." Each's tone was smooth, but there was a flicker of something underneath. Annoyance maybe, or fear. Sylvia nodded slowly, jotting down a note. She could feel Rails gaze beside her, like the dog was trying to tell her something in the only way he knew how. Meanwhile, in the ER, dear Mickey Langley was examining Emma. He frowned as he traced the bruises along her spine. Faint, but distinct, like fingerprints pressed into her skin. "It's seen this pattern before, not from a howl, not from a slip into the river. These were the kind of marks that came from something or someone grabbing, holding too tight, squeezing where they shouldn't." Amanda, the nurse, looked up at him with wide eyes. "Doctor, you see this?" "I see it," he muttered, itching his jaw tight. But outside the exam room, there was no proof, no witness, just an old dog in a river that wouldn't talk. When Emma was finally stable, they moved her to a room with pale yellow walls and a single window that overlooked the parking lot. Sylvia stood quietly by the doorway, her eyes on the little girl who lay so still, her small chest rising and falling like the flutter of a paper kite. Ranger sat just outside the door. Each yes hit resting on each yes pause, a silent. Sentinel. The next morning, Sylvia returned to the hospital. Ranger was still there as if he hadn't left all night. A small stack of paperwork waited on her desk. Mandatory forms, incident reports, the usual red tape. But what caught her was a drawing tucked between the files like a tea had been left there for her to find. A child's drawing, a stick figure, girl with dark hair, a big dog beside her, and just barely visible, a tall figure wearing black boots standing near a river. Her stomach flipped. She flipped the paper over, searching for a name, but there was nothing. He, Sylvia, a voice called from behind. It was Helen Adams. The elderly neighborhood called 911. Her eyes were pale, her hands clutching a cup of tea. The dog, she said, pointing at Ranger. He didn't just find her. He knew something was wrong. He wouldn't stop barking. Not until we found her. Sylvia nodded slowly, her mind racing. In a small town like Whispering Pines, people talked, but they also looked away when things got uncomfortable. Ranger wasn't just a dog anymore. He was a question no one wanted to answer. That night, Sylvia sat at her kitchen table, staring at the filet in front of her. She sipped coffee that had gone cold, the tasty bitter on her tongue. Her fingers hovered over her phone, the urge to call the sheriff, warning with the fear that it wouldn't matter. Then she looked at Ranger, lying on the rug, Nichlia's breathing slow, Nichlia's eyes half closed, but never fully asleep. She whispered into the dim light, not expecting an answer. Do you know, old boy? Do you know what happened out there? Ranger lifted each head, just barely, and the way each eyes glinted in the light. It wasn't human, but it wasn't just a dog's guy either. It was the look of someone who had seen, who had witnessed, and who was waiting for someone to finally listen. Across town, Elijah Carter poured himself a whiskey and sat on the porch. The night air cool against each skin. He stared at the trees, each jaw tight. In each hand, he clenched a small pink hair tie. Outside, in the dark, a shape moved among the trees, and in the quiet, a steady growl rumbled. Ranger hadn't forgotten. The morning sun barely touched the tops of the pine trees when Sylvia Reynolds pulled into the parking lot of Whispering Pines Elementary. The sky was pale, streaked with gray clouds, and the air smelled like wet grass and something unspoken, hanging heavy. She gripped the steering wheel, her knuckles white. Staring at the front doors where a line of kids were filling in their backpacks, bouncing, their shoes squeaking on the polished linoleum. Most of them moved in a blur of noise and energy, but a few, just a few, moved differently. Quiet, careful, watchful. Sylvia had seen it before. Ranger sat beside her in the passenger seat, Nichnia's Hitler, ace. Locked on the school entrance, Nichnia's fair. Bristled every time Elijah Charter's truck came into view. The man had shown up this morning with a box of donuts in One hint and a fix smile in the other. Waving at teachers like he was the poster boy for small town charm. But Ranger wasn't fooled. Neither was Sylvia. She stepped out of the car, pulling her cardigan tight round her shoulders as a cold breeze swept through. Ranger jumped down to landing. Heavier than he said to each giant stiff, but determined. Inside the school, Mrs. Vega, the art teacher, greeted Sylvia with a worried look. "Morning," she whispered, glancing over her shoulder as if afraid of being overheard. "Got a minute?" Sylvia asked. Mrs. Vega nodded. They ducked into the empty art room. The walls were covered with children's drawings, bright suns, stick figures, houses with crooked chimneys. But mixed in, almost hidden, were pictures that didn't belong. A man in black boots, a girl with a blue shirt, a dog standing by a river. Mrs. Vega's voice was barely above a breath. "Leah drew this yesterday." She pointed to a paper tucked under a stack of construction paper. A shaky sketch. Crude but unmistakable. A man pushing something into the water. A girl's arms flailing. And in the corner, a dark shape with ears pointed standing rigid by the river's. Sylvia whispered, her throat tightening. Mrs. Vega nodded, her eyes glassy. And Ranger. Before Sylvia could respond, the intercom crackled. "Elijah Carter, please. Report to the office." Rare's ear snapped. Up, each body tensed, muscles tight. Beneath each fair. Sylvia felt a tea, too. That electric snap in the air like a storm about to break. In the hallway. Yelich's boots caught louder than they should have, sharp and steady, like a metronome marking the beat of something. Dark. He passed by the art room, paused. Each a slid to Sylvia, 10 to Mrs. Vega, 10 just for a second to Ranger. "Ladies," he drawled, each voice smooth as honey, but sharp as a knife. "Working hard, I see." Sylvia felt her pulse. "Speaky." She housed her voice steady. "Just reviewing some student projects." Yelich's gaze lingered on the drawings. Pinned to the wall. A flicker of something crossed each's face. Recognition. Maybe. Or calculation. Then he smiled a slow, curling grin that didn't touch each's face. "Oh, Callion," he said, and kept walking. Rare's lagrol followed him down the hallway like a shadow. That night, Sylvia sat in her kitchen, flipping through her notebook. Names, dates, sketches. The patterns were forming, but it wasn't enough. Not yet. She stared at the page worksheet. Scribbled Leah's drink, Emma's bruises. Rare's reaction. She closed her eyes. The sound of a truck door slamming snapped her out of a tea. She peeked through the curtains. Elijah Carter stood outside his house across the street, pacing under the porch light. He hit a cigarette clenched between each teeth, the smoke curling round each face. Like a maska. Ranger, lying by the door, growled la deep in each's chest. Sylvia's breath caught. Hines whispered. Barely a sound. The next morning at the hospital, Emma stared. Her eyelids fluttered, her small fingers twitching like they were reaching for something. Sylvia was there, notebook in hand, waiting. Diar lengle naditat. Hjor, nichnies veis ei mich of hop en tuere. Jemmas vois vas ei diaroi uisper, berle. Audrebro. Tayo, shibrit, hjoreis. Glese, bat serchink. Silvia blinkt. Hostayo, honi. Jemmas lips. Trambrot. Zedok. Zedok adze. River. Ranger. Sylvia's hart tomt so hard. Initi hert. Skylinit in gentle. Emma, kan. You tell me who hurt you. Jemmas ace. Flottert kloster gen, but hjor hint. Moved, gripping the shit. Hjor small. Fingers trace something invisible. 2. Lines, tenei kerf, tenei dot. Sylvia. Understood, boots. Black. Boots. Later that day, Sylvia went back. To whispering pains elementary. She said. This Lea in the art room, her voice. Soft, her posture relaxed. Lea, can you tell me what you saw? Lea didn't speak. He never did. But he opened each sketchbook. Page after page of drawings. Boots, a river, a dog, a man's face. Drawn. Over and over, always the same. Hala ace and the shadow of a cigarette in each Mauert. Sylvia's hands shook as she flipped through a term. Ranger said by her feet, watching the boy with a quirt. Unwavering gaze. Lea looked down at Ranger. Each lips moved just barely. He was there. He whispered. The dog saw. Sylvia froze. What did the dog see, Lea? Lea looked up, each eyes dark and serious. He saw what they did to Emma. That night. Ranger said by the door again, each body. Still, each eyes fixed on the shadows. Outside. Elijah Charter struck Aldrelton. The street, the headlights cutting across the lawn like searchlights. He didn't get out, just sat there smoking. Steering. Ranger growled. A deep ban. Shaking sound that rolled through the court like a storm warning. Sylvia stood behind him, her hand resting on each head, feeling the tension coiled beneath. The fear. You're getting close, boy, she whispered. Rears ears flicked outside. Yellier's cigarette Ford bright, 10. Dropped to the ground, a tiny red dot. Fading into the night. The winking up, carrying with it the scent of pain. And something else, something like smoke. And old secrets. And in the dark, Ranger didn't move. The wind had picked up. Overnight, rattling the windows and bending the trees outside Sylvia's house. By morning, the air smelled sharp, like pine needles crushed under. Boots, like secrets buried in damp earth. Sylvia sat at her kitchen table. A cup of coffee growing cold between her hands. Ranger lay by the door, each hit. On each pause, eyes half closed, but twitching at every sound. The house was quiet, but it wasn't peaceful. It was the kind of quiet that homed with things left on-site. Sylvia glanced at her notes, flipping through pages of names, times, and sketches. The edges were worn, smudged by her fingers, and the words felt heavy each time she read them. Emma, Lea, Black Boots, the river. Ranger. A soft knock at the door startled her. When she opened it, Emma's Vega stood on the porch holding a folder tied to her chest. Her face was pale. Her lips pressed into a thin line. Can I come in? She asked. Sylvia nodded, stepping aside. They sat together, neither speaking at first. The folder sat between them like a weight. Ranger shifted each tail, tipping once against the floor behind. Settling. MRS vega finally spake, her voice la. I need you to see this too. She opened the folder, revealing a stack of drawings, more than Sylvia expected. Each one was similar. A tall figure with dark boots, a child, a river, and always the dog. Sylvia's breath caught. Who drew this? MRS Vega hesitated. Different kids, not just Leah. Here Sapphire, Jessie, even little Mia. In second grade. They've all drawn some version of the same thing. Sylvia felt the chill rise in her chest, a cold thread winding tight. It's not just Emma, she whispered. MRS Vega shook her head, her fingers trembling as she flipped to the last page. A drawing of Ranger standing at the edge of the water barking at a shadow with no face. Sylvia closed her eyes for a moment, breathing deep. When she opened them, Ranger was watching her, each gaze steady and sharp, as if waiting for her to catch up. She ran her hand through her hair. This isn't just a coincidence. Nah, MRS Vega said quietly. It's not just 10, Sylvia's phone buzzed. It was a message from the sheriff's office, one of those generic updates sent out to community leaders. But the wording made her freeze. Elijah Carter has been cleared of all suspicion. In the Carter case officially closed. No further action required. Sylvia's hands tightened around the phone, her knuckles turning white. MRS Vega stared at her. Hair closing at. Sylvia nodded, her voice low and tight. Not if I have anything to say about it. She stood abruptly, pacing the room. Ranger rose too, stretching stiff legs. Nichnie's tail la. MRS Vega hesitated. Sylvia, what are you going to do? Sylvia's voice was soft, but her eyes burned. I'm going to listen to them, to the kids, and to him. She nodded toward Ranger. That evening, Sylvia sat in her car outside Elijah Charter's house. The porch light was off, but a faint glow seeped through the curtains. Each truck was parked at an angle in the driveway. The front left tire on the grass like he hadn't cared to park straight. Sylvia's heart pounded. She watched the shadows in the windows. Her fingers tapping a restless RHYTHM on the steering wheel. Ranger sat in the back seat, silent but alert. Each ears pricked forward, each body tense, ready. And 1080 happened.